LC State Coeur d'Alene Writing Center, where we offer virtual and in-person consultations to help you with your writing project. Today, I'd like to talk to you about how to write a literature review. If you happen to be a social work major, there's a good chance you're going to write at least 4 literature reviews before you graduate. A literature review is an APA paper in which you summarize, synthesize, or critique the literature that you have found in your research on a specific topic. If you are taking the Foundations on Research class, you likely have been reading and analyzing a variety of different articles on the topic of your choice. When you analyze an article, the goal is to thoroughly understand the article and be able to explain to someone else what the article says. The other goal in those assignments, as you read an article and analyze it, is to gain an understanding of how APA articles are built and constructed. You see, writing an APA article is kind of like building a structure, just like someone might build a house. There are different compartments and rooms. In the same way that when you walk into a house, any house, you would look for the kitchen if you wanted to find food, or look for a bathroom if you wanted to find a shower, or look for a bedroom if you wanted to find a place to sleep. An APA article is broken up into sections that you will look for depending on the information you want to find. For example, if you want to know the purpose of the study, you might look at the abstract or the introduction. If you want to know how the study was performed, you might look at the methods section. If you want to learn the results of the study, you might look at the results or the discussion section near the end. When you analyze an article in your research class, you're basically going through the different sections of an APA article and explaining what you find in those different sections. However, when you get to the end of your research class and you are expected to create a literature review, you're actually doing something quite different. In a literature review, the objective is to take all the different research that you've looked at, all the different studies, and all the different information they have, and use that to create your own structure. It's just like if you were going to build your own house, you wouldn't take chunks of different houses and put them all together. You would have to build your own house with your own design. And while it might resemble and have similarities, it might get resources from all different houses that you've looked at, it will be your house. Now you might be confused here in a moment because your professor has probably told you that when you're writing an APA, it's never about your opinion. It's never about you saying your own ideas or thoughts. Everything is cited. Everything comes from the research. Everything comes from the other articles that you've looked at. That is true. Everything in an APA article is cited. And your reader wants to know that you have authority, that you have a basis for everything you said. However, there actually is a great deal that comes from you that goes into how the paper is written. For example, you're the one who comes up with the logic, the reason that goes into how the material from those sources is put together and combined. You're the one who uses your critical thinking to look at the results of the different studies and decide how you want to include that information and which studies you see as most important. In the same way that if you were building a house, you would get all your supplies from a Home Depot, you have to get all the components of your paper from the research. But you decide how you put it together. You decide how you design it. One of the things you want to do in a literature review is you want to intersperse the information you get from different articles. You get different kinds of information from different articles. Imagine if you're building a house and you got all your 2x4s from one source, and you got your sheetrock from another source, and you got paint from another source. Well, in building a house, you make use of all those items in one room. In the same way, when you're writing your assignment, you will make your literature review, you will make use of material from many different sources in one section. One challenge that many students run into is they look at the articles they've read and analyzed for their research class, and then they try to write their literature review, and they run into trouble because they feel like it just all doesn't quite fit together the way they'd like. They feel like there's things missing. Well, this study looked at this, but this study looked at this. And they're like, well, how can I really put this all together into something with interspersed data that just all flows as my own paper? Into this problem is that we can go get more materials. In the same way that if you were building a house and you found out you only had half the materials you needed to construct a room, well, you go get more materials. And that is 100% acceptable when you're writing a literature review. You don't have to stick with just the articles that you used earlier in your class. You can go back on the library website, do a few more searches, and find the information you need. Many times when I've been writing an APA paper or a literature review, I have run into situations where there's just one little piece of information I need. Perhaps I need some statistics on how many people are diagnosed each year with ADHD. And let's say I have all these good articles, but none of them quite gave me those statistics I need. Well, I will quickly go online. I will find that information either from a place that, it depends on my professor what sources they allow me to use, but whether it's required to be a peer-reviewed journal article or whether it can be like some government statistics, I will go find that information. I will put that information in the literature review, and I will cite that source, and maybe that's the only place I cite that source, but as long as you have the minimum number of sources your professor required you, and as long as you use the type of resources they said you could use, you can get as many new resources as you want to make it a well-rounded paper that flows. And remember, if you have any questions about your writing project, even early on when you're trying to figure out the flow and structure of your assignment, feel free to contact us here at the LCSC Writing Center.